Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for frame rate is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
Tom, did you see the April Fool's YouTube things?
I saw a lot of them, yeah.
You didn't see all of them?
I saw, like, some of the 1911 stuff.
Yeah, you didn't see the flugelhorn feline.
The flugelhorn feline.
Before there was ever Charlie Schmidt's keyboard cat, there was flugelhorn feline, which unfortunately starts with no audio whatsoever.
Well, it's from 1911. It's a silent film.
You got a guy walking along and he falls on the train tracks. And then...
Play him off, flugelhorn feline. Now, this is true to the silent film industry because you would actually have to hire a flugelhornist at each showing.
All right, let's go. Let's start the show. I never get to say it. Can I go, it's frame rates.
Welcome, ladies and germs.
You really did that. Wow, talk about lines from 1911.
I think that's what
Is
did
that
it
what
to
you were
me.
going?
Yeah, I was thinking about vaudeville. To episode 19 of Frame Rate. I'm Tom Barrett.
I'm Brian Brushwood.
Breaking news as we record this. We're recording Frame Rate a little earlier this week for those who follow the podcast because Brian's got a show on Tuesday. So
That's right.
and you happen to be in the Twit
Right
Cottage
here in the
already.
Twit
So we're like,
Cottage.
while he's here, let's just knock one out. Joshua Topolsky starting his new deal. He's going to go work for SB Nation, which is a sports blogging company.
What?
But he's going to start a new project that he says is not a lone silo. This isn't just about sports or tech. What we will build together at SB Nation is a new media company, buoyed by the incredible work SB Nation has done in publishing, and part of that new media company will be the as-yet unnamed gadget and technology site that I'll be working over the next few months to create. When we launch, I will be editor-in-chief of a property that I hope will inform, entertain, and engage fans of technology in a whole new way. I have a feeling, and the reason why I bring it up on Frame Rate, that with Josh Topolsky's love of video, that this is going to be a whole earth media company.
So a full ecosystem. All right, but here's...
No, I mean they're going to sell like things for planting stuff in your backyard.
Oh, yeah, like a green thing.
Like the whole Earth catalog. No, exactly. Like a media company that's taking advantage of everything from the ground up that the internet offers.
All right, now I'm not going to lie. I actually blanked on what Joshua Topolsky's most known for. You want to fill me in on this?
Editor-in-chief of Engadget.
I never heard of it.
And host of the Engadget Show.
Never heard of it.
And he often is on Jimmy Fallon as a technology expert.
Never heard of it.
Late Night with Jimmy Fallon on NBC. You've heard of NBC?
I've heard of the CBC up in Canada. Related?
NBC is like CBC for the United States of America.
Well, maybe it'll turn into something for them someday.
Probably not. Comcast just bought them. Anyway,
No, that's fantastic news. Good for Joshua. That's awesome.
I'm very interested to see how that turns out. You know, especially if Leo fires me.
You're already warming up the other back seat.
You know, they
I see.
always say keep your resume fresh.
You know what? Smart move. I like where you're headed there. So just thank you for this plug you're giving him.
All right, let's head out to the big story. The big story.
This just in, the big story.
Now, there was a debate about whether or not this should be the big story, but whether or not it's the biggest story of the week, it's certainly, I think, the most interesting story of the week.
It's got the most discussion points around it. Time Warner, Sony, Comcast, and News Corp Movie Studios are all in on a premium VOD effort and will start showing films on DirecTV and in some Comcast cable markets that are not yet out on DVD, but recently just left the theaters.
These are the movies that I think of when I think of in-flight entertainment, or certain hotel chains already have deals like this where they're not out on DVD, they're not out on the rental market, but it's sort of that roughly that dollar store, that dollar cinema circuit. I guess, do they even have dollar cinemas anymore?
A lot of dollar cinemas have gone belly up.
I can't think of a single one
because people just want to
left in town.
watch DVDs at home at that point. They don't really care. Like, well, if it's that old, I'll just wait for it on DVD.
Well,
now, DirecTV has had movies on pay-per-view at $4.99, $3.99 that you could watch that aren't in the theaters anymore and aren't on DVD.
Right.
So you may think, well, why would I do that? Why would I pay $30? I think the idea here, as I understand it, is these are recently out of the theater.
Yes.
In other words, they're not the movies you see on pay-per-view now have been out of the theater for quite a while. These are the same ones that you might end up seeing on a plane.
Right.
Because the airplane window is usually that just out of the theater window.
Right. Well, and when I think about this, what I think will happen is, first of all, this is a great idea, and I'm 100% behind this.
At $30 a pop?
Yes, because think about it. How
Okay.
many movies do you
I'm gonna
hear
think
about?
it.
Wait, how many movies do you hear about just as, like, the buzz is the highest, just as they're going out of the theaters, all your friends have seen it, and you haven't, and you're like, oh, I really wanted to do that. For example, for me, the latest Quentin Tarantino one, Inglourious Bastards, was one where everybody said it was amazing, but during that 2 to 3 week window when it was there at the theaters and everyone was seeing it, I never quite made it out to the theater, and I wasn't able to. I would have so totally paid $30 to see it with Bonnie, because keep in mind also, when you go out to the movie theater, especially if you have kids, you got to pay a sitter, so there's $50 right there. And when I go to the movie theater, I only go to the Alamo Draft House, so that's a good $10 a piece just to get in the door. And then the meal alone,
Well, you
is
wouldn't have to.
30 or $40. No, but I'm not gonna go see anyone. I mean, I tell you what, I cannot go to the movie theater and experience the movies the way I do without spending $100 from the moment I leave to the moment I come back.
All right, I'm trying to see, like, what are examples of what might go into this. Yahoo has a good, like, in theaters situation. So, wow, there's a lot of bad movies that are actually still in theaters. But here's an example of something different. The King's Speech.
Yes.
Still in theaters.
Yes.
Probably soon to be out of theaters, I'm guessing.
Well, and that might be an unfair one, because the only reason it's still in theaters is because the Hollywood buzz that it got with the Oscars. But imagine the King's Speech 3 months ago. How about that?
Big Mamas Like Father Like Son?
That's a bad example. Are there no good movies that are recently
really
out of theater?
no good. Romeo and Juliet?
All right, picture source code 2 weeks from now, okay? When
The Green Hornet. Actually, The Green Hornet might be a good example. Green Hornet's a blockbuster. A lot of people were interested in seeing it, but not a lot of people went. It's not in the top box office anymore.
All right, now, when you're thinking about this ticket price, you're picturing for one person and it looks outrageous. If you have a family of 5, or if you have a next-door neighbor who lives next to you, why wouldn't you do movie night every Friday night, and instead of taking your family out to the movie theater, instead you invite your neighbors over, you have 12
you've
people.
just broken copyright law.
What, to have the two of you together in a
Bring
private
your
showing?
neighbors over.
Well, no way. That's not the exact letter of the law. For your in-home viewing, for private, for you and your friends.
Are they residents of your household?
Oh, get out of town. What about people in the dorm rooms? The dorm rooms are playing
Even
movies.
worse.
No way.
They have to
Really?
get licenses for that.
That's outrageous.
I mean, nobody's going to go crack down on you for inviting your neighbors over to watch it.
Yeah.
But that is one of those things where the MPAA would crack down on it if it got too popular.
Jerks.
It really are.
That's so bogus. Okay, but look, but the point is certainly when you look at it from a monetary standpoint, $30 for a movie that's still popular, that everybody wants to see, but maybe a couple of them have seen it, but they want to see it again. You spend $30 and you get 10 people in the room. It's $3 a head. And plus, we all have these giant 80-inch, projectors that we're doing.
Well, not everybody does.
Everybody, every
not
person in
everyone
America,
has
everybody
friends,
knows. Everybody knows, and everyone has neighbors, and everyone has giant 100-inch
But
projectors.
even if you're not involving the neighbors, I think you could still make your point.
Right.
If you've got a family of 4, like the good old-fashioned family of 4, $30 breaks down to $7.50 a person, and that means that you're paying maybe a hair more than some people pay in some markets, maybe a hair less than some people pay in some markets, but you're not dealing with parking, you're not dealing with gas, you're not dealing with the overpriced popcorn. You buy your own popcorn, save money there. You watch it at home on your 80-inch projector, and then it might be worth it. Or even better, it's worth it to watch the movies that you can't drag the kids, you can't get a babysitter for.
Right.
And so you wait till the kids go to bed, and then you watch the King's Speech or whatever it was that was going to bore them to tears.
So somebody in the chat room has already pointed out, like, well, for $30, I could buy the movie. Yes, you can.
Not yet.
6 months from now.
Right.
But it's like, which would you rather do? For example,
For $0, you can pirate the movie.
well, yes, I mean, there is that. But of
I
course,
know-
there's trade-offs for that as well. You trade off quality, and you also expose yourself to the risk of being sued by the MPAA. So there's reasons.
Or getting viruses,
do
or,
it.
you know.
But I'll tell you what. First of all, this number one, and I wish there was better movies that came out like just 4 weeks ago. But if it was a case where a month after it came out, when it was still, you know, the zeitgeist of America was still talking and thinking about it, I would so totally pay $30. And I'm going to go a step farther. I'm going to say this will be a success, and I give it another year or two before somebody at least tries the experiment of a $60 rental that you can watch simultaneous with the theatrical release. And when that happens, I suggest I will pay $60 to watch a movie live. You know, if it's still cheaper. I want to see the movies right when they come out. I have a perfectly comfortable, perfectly awesome high definition theater at home. Why on earth do I have to pay the gas, pay the babysitter, pay for the crappy popcorn at other, not the Alamo Draft House, which is awesome, pay for all these extra things? I mean, $60 is still a bargain, even if there's only 2 people watching compared to actually going out to a movie.
Now, you aren't going to see the movies that are in the theaters, though. So if you want to see them when they come out,
right,
you're going to have to go to the theaters. You're waiting. You're paying your $30, but you're also giving up the luxury of seeing it soon after release. You're waiting, and everybody's spoiling it for you, and everybody's talking about it, and the buzz is gone, and you're not part of the conversation anymore. I wouldn't discount that part of it. I think you've got some rational reasons why you think that, and I think you could be totally right. But I'm going to make the case for the opposite of this.
Really?
I think this is going to fall totally flat. I think this is going to fail miserably the way Cinema Now and Movie Link failed miserably when they came out with the same thing 5 years ago and said, we're going to charge you $30 and you can download it.
That was
have
not,
it on your TV.
That was not a currently relevant movie. It was super old.
It was a little bit older. The reason, though, that I think this is going to fall flat is when I'm sitting down at home,
right,
I feel like I deserve a discount because I'm in my house.
Okay, what about
I'm not
this?
going to a theater. I'm not going to a megaplex. I'm not seeing the big movie screen.
You're not having
And
jackasses shoot lasers at the screen.
The perspective is I pay $5 for this movie on pay-per-view now. Why am I paying 4 times, 5 times, 6 times as much to watch it? I'm not paying that.
All right,
I'll just wait and get it when it's $5. I'll just wait and buy it on iTunes.
But
and I'll rent it for $3.99. If I waited this long, why pay $30? I'm going to save money. You can't underestimate how cheap people are, especially when they're on home. And I think there is a large segment of the audience who says, "Why would I wait? I can get it for free, and it's in the and get the ones that are in the theaters right now." They are competing with piracy still.
Yes, and that is the X factor that mixes things up. But if you want to throw the value card at me, I will say that $30 to watch it at home is a better value.
It's not about computing value. I don't dispute that. It's about perceived value.
Okay.
And they're not thinking that far through. They're sitting there going, well, these movies are normally $5. Why would I pay $30?
That's okay. That's why what they ought to do is they ought to, and you're right. Maybe they'll fail as this because everyone has a peg. Well, I go to the movie, it's $7. I wait till it's pay-per-view, it's $5. But for some reason you want me to pay $30. What they need to do is offer the option that only a crazy person would go with, and that's $60 for a day it comes out release. So
they can't do that though.
But
because of
imagine
the theaters.
Okay, well maybe
They lose the theater chains if they do anything that's day of release.
But if they did,
okay.
If let's say they were able to work that out, imagine this: $60 the day it comes out. You are counting down, and let's say for the first 2 weeks, $60 for the first 2 weeks, and then it drops to $30 at the end of 2 weeks. All of a sudden, that $30 seems like a huge bargain. So it's like the first 2 weeks you really want to see the movie, but I'm not going to spend no $60 to see it. And you count down, and then 2 weeks, and it drops to $30. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, me and my buddies are going to get together.
I still don't think that overcomes the prejudice of rental in my own home. I don't even own it. Should be about $3.99, $4.99. Why is this $30? I pay less than that for DVDs. I can go to Best Buy right now, buy DVDs for $10 and $20, and then I own them and watch them as many times as I want. Why would I pay $30 for this crappy DirecTV stream?
I'll tell you what. Here's the difference, and I guarantee
probably going to be a storm and blow it out in the middle while I'm watching it.
Everybody who's listening
they
right
all
now,
talk like that too.
Are those my Texas fans? Is that who you're making fun of? Here's the thing. Everybody who has a family and who has a neighbor who has a family is doing the math right now and realizes that $30 is a huge bargain.
People with families, you know this, Brian. People with families don't have time to do math.
Okay, what else, bro? You're talking to a guy right here.
They're in the middle of math, and all of a sudden they got to change a diaper.
Okay.
They got to...
I'll not stand for this, sir. I'll have you know, as a family man.
Brian, you are a very good family man.
I think it's a great idea. I hope it takes off. And of course, if it does fail, I suspect it'll be not in the idea, but in the implementation of it. I could see a case where the releases aren't good enough, or they missed the window by just a couple of weeks or something like that. If it's a good idea but implemented poorly, I could see it totally failing. But I think this is a good idea.
If they were smart, honestly, my real feeling on this is not playing devil's advocate. If they were smart, they would roll this out at a $10 price point, take the hit for a small period of time, get people hooked on it. Because $10,
you can't go up in price.
$10 starts to feel like, it's $5 for these older movies, but it's $10 for these newer movies, and then you can boil them like a frog. And then all of a sudden the hot new releases start to be $11. And then maybe you can tweak those theater people and get this is a week early now, but it's 12
because we're already seeing that creep. The DVD releases are already getting closer and closer to the theatrical releases,
right? And I really think $30 prices it down to a limited number of people who will shell out, whether they do the math or not, who are like, I'm just not spending $30. I wouldn't even go to the theater because I can't afford it right now.
Right.
I'm going to stick with the $4.99. Whereas $10, you might get some of those people who wouldn't go to the theater going, well, at that price, actually, I might be able to do it.
And I tell you, my in-laws never ever buy. They don't go to the movie theater. Like, to them, the movie's released when it comes out on pay-per-view.
Yeah, right.
But I could see there are certain movies that they would be excited enough. They'd be like, yeah, I'll pay double for that. I mean, I think even $20 is one where you could spring for it. Be like, sure.
Like the huge block, like The Dark Knight, or the.
Oh, sure. Or if you're into westerns, you're like, oh, True Grit, finally, you know, this month. So I mean, that would be a good one. Like, True Grit is a long way from coming out on DVD, but I'd pay $30 for it if I hadn't seen it right now.
Now, this whole struggle of the theaters versus the windowing system and trying to bring movies to you on demand to fight piracy, it's all a struggle between people with different interests. The theaters have an interest in getting your money when you come to the theater to watch a movie. The studios have an interest in trying to get that movie out to as many people as possible, but at the maximum value, so that they use all these channels in the best way. You have an interest in getting that movie as cheaply as possible, as fast as possible, and that brings us to another big story.
Stop everything. It's another big story.
Because we usually see those struggles as consumer versus the industry. But now we're seeing the industry start to come up against its own attitude.
They're finally eating their own.
They really are. Time Warner Cable has removed 11 of its channels from its iPad app. Now, let's be clear. This iPad app, all it does is allow you to stream television channels that you get on your Time Warner Cable system to your iPad when you're at home on your Time Warner authorized modem.
Okay, well,
so you can only watch them in your house where you already pay for cable service. So Time Warner's theory, they're already paying for cable service. We could throw as many boxes around the house as we want. The iPad's just another screen that we're hooking up.
Right.
But a bunch of the television stations have objected to this, saying that's an unauthorized retransmission.
Right. Well, and keep in mind that the way that when it first came out, I guess this was a bit of a surprise, I guess, for some of these stations. And
well, it's no more a surprise than if they added another DVR to somebody else's house.
Okay,
but because it's got the magic words iPad app and internet, everybody gets shocked.
As we learned on today's twit, the law has nothing to do with common sense, and the definition is you are digitally streaming content versus cable boxing it, which is somehow different. But we should point out that what happened is they removed nearly a dozen channels from the iPad app. The original ones that were removed, let me see if I can find the list right here. And I can't find a list. But the very next day, they added 24 new channels. Yeah. So the new list on the iPad app, and this is one situation where I wish I was back home. Here we go. The new channels listed below. I'm going to go through these as fast as we can. Now, at home on my iPad, I could tune in and watch live A&E, ABC Family, AMC Bravo, CNBC, CNBCW, CNN, CNN, C-SPAN, C-SPAN 2, C-SPAN 3, Chiller, Disney, Disney XD, ESPN News, food, G4, Gala, HGTV, HLN, Hallmark, History, HSM, IFC, Jewelry, LMN, MSNBC, NY, a bunch of Spanish stations,
Now,
QVC.
that's interesting. Many of those channels are from TNT, Time Warner, not
Sleuth.
Time Warner Cable, but Time Warner, the media company.
Style,
They
sci-fi,
are fairly friendly with each other.
golf, travel, USA,
Also, Scripps Howard is in there. Oh, I'm sorry, not Scripps Howard. Food, HGTV.
Yep.
Golf is a Comcast-owned channel.
Wow.
So is Sci-Fi now, with Comcast owning NBC Universal. So a lot of NBC Universal stuff in here. However, the channels cut were Animal Planet, BET, Country Music Television, Comedy Central, Discovery, FX, MTV, National Geographic, Nickelodeon, Spike, and VH1. Fox channels, Viacom channels, and the Discovery Networks channels.
I'll tell you what, you know who's on the side of the good guys? I can't believe I'm saying this, but Time Warner and their affiliated
Well,
stations.
Comcast is adding them because they're like, hell yeah,
Yeah.
we want to do that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. It's so weird to get to a point where finally the corporations are being like, well, this is just common sense and there's more money with more eyeballs and let's
Yeah.
do this.
Exactly. They're running into what they've been running into with the consumers saying, but I can do it.
Yeah.
Why should I be stopped from doing it? I own this movie. Why should you stop me from being able to play it on whatever device I want?
This is a great time because this is like a two-front war where you've got Comcast and Time Warner making common sense moves, giving consumers what they want. And on the other side, you've got Amazon with their cloud music service giving people what they want on that end. And of course, both of them are going to have all kinds of challenges.
It's like Germany telling Italy, wait, you can't build a Luftwaffe.
Yeah. Hold on, bro. Whoa. Let's get the access to fight each other.
Yeah. Those trains won't run on time then.
I don't even know what that means. No, this is exciting news. It's good. It's good all the way around. And I don't know. I mean, what do you think? You want to pontificate on where this is headed? Where do you see this thing going 6 months from now?
Cablevision is already launching their own app now.
Oh, really?
That does this. This is one of the battles that will bring what I've always felt is, in the end, common sense does win. Mm-hmm. It doesn't ever look like it, and sometimes we go through long periods where common sense doesn't win, like when AT&T was the monopoly telephone operator in the United States, and you didn't own your phone.
Right, and you weren't
in your own
legally
house.
allowed to attach
you
an
knew
answering
that was
machine.
going to end, but man, did it last a long
But
time.
then you died in 1976.
Exactly, before
having
Carter
lived
phone.
your whole life under an idiotic rule.
But in the grand scheme, when you back up, and it's battles like this that cause it. You know, people protesting, I want to hook up an answering machine didn't change anything. Carter phone coming in and saying, no, I'm building a business on this, and business going to battle against each other change things. Sometimes that's what it takes.
Right.
And this is an example of that, is the business going, oh, wait a minute. You know, we're really, and this, I'm more and more a believer in this. Businesses are in the business of making up reasons why they should be allowed to do things that are in the short-term interest of their stockholders. They're not in the business of doing anything in particular. It's all about like, well, that would make us a lot of money and look good on the stock balance sheet, so we're going to do that, and we'll make up all the reasons why that's the way it should be. Piracy's bad for us, and we don't want to think about any other reasons, and so we're going to go after that. And so what this is two of those those viewpoints starting to oppose each other, where the cable companies are like, you know what, being able to give an iPad app, that's sure going to look good. It's going to boost subscribers. Let's go do that. And we'll make up reasons why everyone should have the right to that. But it's the same reasons the consumers have been saying, well, I need to be able to broadcast my cable to myself over a sling box. And I need to be able to do, to be able to rebroadcast all of this and that and move things around and record them. And so now business is going to battle on the side of that argument.
So what you're saying is this is the equivalent of Captain Kirk short-circuiting an android by asking it a double negative question.
Yeah. Or cheating on the Kobayashi Maru.
There we go. Yeah, there we go. Finally, we cheated on the Kobayashi Maru, and it's finally starting to all come crumbling down around us.
Yeah.
This is exciting. It's good news all the way around. I mean, this is this is a battle, and it'll be an interesting battle, and it's a good battle to be had. This should have been had a long time ago. I'm glad common sense, a decade after the fact, is finally coming to big media.
All right, let us move on to yet another big story.
Tuck in your bootstraps. It's yet another big story.
Bootstraps are tucked in because the NSFW Summer Movie Fantasy League is underway with the premiere of the source code owned by one Brian Brushwood as are all movies in April except for Prom.
Well, there's one thing that there'll be a brief moment like this month I'll get to pretend I'm Rupert Murdoch, and then it's all going to come crumbling around me. But for those of you guys who missed it, last week, of course, we did our pre-episode where we talked up all the movies for the Summer Draft League. Immediately after that, if you didn't hear it, you could listen to NSFW show at twit.tv/NSFW, where we auctioned them all off. And the way the game worked, if you didn't catch it last time, is we had 6 players, each auctioning 100 Brian Bucks or Justin Robert rubles, or what was yours?
Merit marks.
Merit marks, yeah. And we bought the slate of 27 movies during the summer, and we're whatever your slate is, whatever you own, at the end, you tally up its box office gross, and then whoever makes the most money wins $120.
Man, that was a really fun time. We obviously did the if you listen to last week's Frame Rate, we did the preview show of all the movies that were up for auction. One Shane, if you noticed, I said Prom is owned by Justin Robert Young because the movie he did own got moved to December after he had already bid on it.
So we had to award that kind of at random. Now that it's Aftermath and everybody is just slaying me on Twitter saying that I've made a terrible, terrible decision. And
well, now what do you got? You got Source Code. That's that's in theaters right now. Well, we actually should have some early numbers on that already.
Yeah, we do. Let's break
Your
it down.
Highness, Arthur, Scream 4, Fast 5, Zookeeper, Captain America: The First Avenger.
Right. Okay. Now those all sound good, but I think the reason people are excoriating me is because almost all of those are just in April. Now this is my second year playing the draft, so I knew that the first one to go last year, the second biggest get of the entire season was Clash of the Titans, because nobody wanted to spend too much too early, and as a result, like Jason got Clash of the Titans for like $11 and it made $160 million. So I knew the first one would be undervalued. I bought Source Code at $9. And in fact, let me point out, people are mocking me because I bought Your Highness and Arthur for $15 and $11 respectively. I think I did overpay for Your Highness, but Arthur is going to open on 3,600 screens on next week. So I think I have a good chance of making money on that. Scream 4 is pegged to be a big hit. And I'll tell you what, I watched the trailer for Fast 5. I'm serious. Jammer B, go ahead and cue up the trailer for Fast 5. See if you can find it on YouTube, because I was blown away.
Do you wish that you had gotten Hop this week instead of Source Code?
I don't understand why we didn't put Hop on there.
Hop got
crushed.
38.1 million.
Yeah, why
so
was
far.
Source Code even
Source
there?
Code 15 million.
Yeah.
And Insidious was 13.5 million.
Now, I'll be happy if Source Code makes 50 to 70 million, because at $9, I think that's a good
so
value.
15 million on the opening weekend.
I think it's got a chance if it's
It
sleeping
usually
in.
makes more than half the money on the opening weekend, though.
Well,
so-
I mean, that's true. But next week, the big releases are all comedies. So it's like for an action movie. And I will talk a bit about Source Code later on, talking in Film Found. But I'm not... Here's what gave me hope. Everybody made me feel terrible about my picks, but one enterprising person over Twitter compared our picks to the current projected values on the Hollywood Stock Exchange, which is like, those guys are psycho. They're always buying and selling movies and actors and making money that way. Their predictive analysis, get this, who do you think they have by their methods coming up as first place?
Where did you get this now again?
Somebody tweeted it to me. They used the Hollywood Stock Exchange.
Hollywood Stock Exchange,
Yeah,
okay.
for their predicted values for the movies. They said that Sarah would come in first with 700 million or 800 million, and that I would come in second with all my crappy movies at 700 million. I don't know if that'll be different after Source Code.
Because your strategy was to have bulk,
Yes.
not quality.
What the idea is we all know what the heavy hitters are going to be, and so everybody bids those up way too high. What we don't know is the surprises. So what I try to do is I try to buy all the lowest value movies, figuring one of them will be a surprise hit. Now I don't know which one it's going to be, but like last year I got a lot of base hits. You know, it was the Prince of Persia for $100 million, or the Sex and the City 2 for $100 million, that kind of thing.
I was swimming in Cargill's wake. I could tell he had the exact same strategy as I did.
Yeah.
Which was wait out the Aprils, go for the heart of the country where the big money is made in June and July,
right?
And use your money then. And because of that, and because he has superior knowledge and has done, this is my first time doing one of these auction things too. Right. So I was familiar with the ideas of the strategy, but for instance, I made a cardinal sin of not spending all my money.
Oh,
which is-
see, that was the other thing I was terrified about, which you'll notice if you listen to NSFW, I started to annoy everyone because once I realized, like, I needed one more movie and I needed to go out with 100, so I just started bidding $30 on every movie that came.
And the reason I ran out was because I wasn't figuring it up myself. I was relying on renewing the doc, and it was laggy, and I got confused. I needed to be taking responsibility and writing it down myself, and then I was like, oh, wait. And wasn't confused with how much I had left. I was confused with what other people had left.
Yeah, it was.
So I got myself in a position where everybody could outbid me, and there weren't enough movies left for me to be left with the most money.
How much money did you end up with?
I only had $4 left
That's
out of
not
100
bad.
at the
In
end,
fact,
so it
actually,
wasn't awful.
It could be. Jason had $9 left. Remember, it was $9 to Jason and $9 to Cargill, and then Cargill was first to bid, and Jason couldn't outbid him.
No, Web3587, shut up. It's not excuses. I'm admitting that I didn't take responsibility for writing it down.
All right. Well, for everyone who thinks that there's no chance that my slate's going to make any money,
My slate, by the way, X-Men First Class will
Which
make
will be
bank.
good. Yeah, will be
Larry
good.
Crown could make a decent amount. It
That
won't
could be
make
a
bank,
surprise.
but it could be a surprise hit. Cowboys and Aliens will make bank.
Yes.
I am convinced the Smurfs in 3D will make bank.
I agree.
Because of how popular the Smurfs are with kids. And then Rise of the Apes is a wild card. I think that's what kills me.
No, but that's
because I
good, though.
don't have anything else to. I don't have enough titles.
Yeah, you should have. It would. I don't know. I mean, we'll see because you never know. Because what you're doing is we don't know which of those will be the mega blockbusters in there. But I'll tell you what, everybody was harping on me saying I got no chance, and then I watched the trailer for Fast 5 and I felt a hell of a lot better. Check this thing out. Have you seen this?
I have.
Sullivan. Are you crazy? Do you know whose money are you stealing?
We ain't stealing that.
All right, listen up. The men we're after are professional runners. We find them, we take them as a team, and we bring them back. And above all else, we don't ever let them get into cars.
This ad is nothing but cars, explosions, and ladies wearing very little.
Also known as Grand Theft Auto the movie.
I'm telling you, man.
This just went from Mission Impossible to Mission and freaking Sanity.
Stick to the plan.
Stick to the plan.
Survive. Stop thinking like a cop. You're in my world now. We'll do one last job, and then we disappear forever.
Do you think that's an allusion to them never doing another sequel?
Not if this makes as much money as I hope. So. That's right. So a bunch of people in the chat room are complaining. There were how many people? And I don't know if you know this, Tom. Guess how many people already sent in their slates? Because we had two games. Of course, we're playing against each other.
I know how many.
Okay, but then meanwhile, we set the market prices, and everybody's able to compete against each other for their best chat room roster. I was blown away. Over 400 people put together their own roster, and they're all competing against each other right now. We've got...
and if you're confused with how it works, basically you get 100 points too, just like we did.
Right.
But the cost of your movies is set by the bids that we made.
Right.
So like Brian explains it is, we're the central exchange.
We're the Fed.
We set the interest rate. We set the price of the movie. And then you can buy whatever movies you want, but you have to buy them at our price and stay under 100 points.
And essentially what you're doing is you're figuring out the ways we went wrong. You're figuring out the place where we undervalued movies or we overvalued movies. And I think what we're going to try to do, a bunch of people complained because by the time the download came out, they went to go play along. But, of course, source code was already out by that point. So we shut it down when we had almost 400 participants. So what I think we may do is set up a tool to where you can register and log in, maybe, you can create your own slate and just play against us, virtually. But, meanwhile, officially, the deadline is passed to get in because, of course, if you were to get in now, you would know how much source code made, et cetera, et cetera.
All right, let us move on then, because that's all our big stories, to Film.
sounds of film foul. I said town. There's no dulcet town.
No, there isn't. And there is no need for another Dune remake. And Paramount Pictures agrees. According to the Register, they have buried the attempt to get the 1965 sci-fi classic once again adapted to the silver screen. Richard Rubinstein controls the rights to the book and said, Paramount's option has expired and we couldn't reach an agreement. I'm going to look at my options and whether I wind up taking the script we developed in turnaround or start over. I'm not sure yet.
Okay, so that doesn't mean it's not going to get made. It just means it's not going to get made by Paramount. Right. And you know what? I don't know. I would love to see Dune created again because although to me the definitive picture, and I know you watched the sci-fi version as I tried to, but the definitive cinematic experience with Dune is still David Lynch's 1986 project. Right?
Oh, and man, is that awful.
No, it's not. It's awesome. Are you kidding me?
Director's cut's palatable.
Dude,
but it skips over so much of the heart of that
but you're
book.
somebody you don't understand.
I do.
Okay, you read the book and then experienced the movie, I assume?
No, I actually saw the movie first.
See, I saw the movie first. That's why I read the book.
I saw the movie and I thought, well, it was an okay movie. I don't understand why people are so pissed off. It wasn't the greatest movie in the world. And then I read the book. I'm like, oh, okay, now I understand why they're all.
No, but you see, there were things in the movie that Frank Herbert approved of that I think actually were cooler than the book. The whole idea of the weirding modules using sound and morphing them, that was created by Frank Herbert for the movie. I thought
that's not one of the things that I hate. It's just the pacing and they don't capture
Gurney
the
Halleck,
spirit.
it's got Jean-Luc Picard in there. Come on,
That's
How cool
not
is
bad.
that?
I actually like the agent from Twin Peaks as the Kwisatz Haderach.
Yeah,
he's-
wow, we don't know any of the words for anything. Plus, Sean Young,
Dale Cooper.
She was cute. No, it's not Dale Cooper. I mean, that's his character.
Trey from Sex and the City.
Okay,
I know all of his
but that
characters.
that guy, you know what I'm saying?
Kyle MacLachlan.
Yeah, there we go, Kyle MacLachlan.
I loved the book so much when I finally read it that I was like, someone needs to do justice to this. Someone needs to capture the essence of
was
this.
it sci-fi with their series?
It was not the miniseries. The miniseries got closer, in my opinion.
No, the miniseries
because
was,
they captured some of the elements.
They captured none of the energy.
But exactly, it was too slow. I think they need to do it like they're doing Game of Thrones. You would never take Game of Thrones and try to make a movie out of it. It's too sprawling. It's too epic. And I think what you need to do is take the first 3 books, probably, or maybe just the first 2, and do them as a miniseries, or not a miniseries. Do them as a series,
dude. I would say
as an HBO or Showtime or Starz series.
Yeah,
and commit. We're going to make 32 episodes of this, because the problem with the sci-fi miniseries and the movie is that you just lose too much.
But in the movie, at least you captured more of the tone. Like, you felt the sweeping vistas of the deserts, and it felt epic and giant when you were when you're riding along with him on the worms. I mean, I felt all those things. And whereas, like, Dune on Sci-Fi, it was Dune the play. It was just like, hearken to thee, 'tis a sandworm.
Yeah, you need to merge those two. And because the sci-fi miniseries, what it caught was the elements and the world and the ancientness, but it didn't capture the sweeping vistas.
But
and the David Lynch didn't want his name on it version. His cinematography was decent.
Well, but also,
but it was just confusing, and it didn't capture that world.
The biggest flaw in the sci-fi version was the representation and the performance of Baron Harkonnen in Dune. The movie. There was something sick and filthy where you were ashamed of him and about him, and the way he would lick his lips and look to this random guy on the side and pull his heart plug, and it was so disquieting. Whereas it implied this perverse homosexuality, with inappropriate, like even the Baron wasn't comfortable with it. Whereas in the Dune sci-fi thing, he was very comfortably flaming gay, and the camera tilted like it was 1960s Batman, and it just felt silly and stupid. Whereas whereas in the movie, man, was it perverse and weird. I really dug that sickness.
Now, meanwhile, Sony Pictures says they're going to reduce the prices of downloading movies on the internet. For instance, last Tuesday, Sony began selling downloads of 2 new releases for less than the $15 DVD price. At Amazon and iTunes, you can get The Tourist and How Do You Know for $12.99, whereas the DVD cost $15. So at the risk of cutting into their DVD sales, they're now selling the full-on versions of movies for download at cheaper prices.
Better to be on it earlier rather than later. I mean, look, maybe this is a nod that they understand that the real competition is not the stores, is that it's piracy.
John Calkins, Executive Vice President at Sony Pictures Home Entertainment, said 2011 needs to be the year of sell-through. They're finally starting to attack price, which is where they need to be attacking this entire time, is what we were saying in our earlier discussion as well. And Warner Brothers movies, a couple weeks ago, because we did the preview, we missed this story, but just want to note that Warner Brothers has added more movies to Facebook now. So if you're looking to watch a movie on Facebook, now you can add Inception, Life as We Know It, Yogi Bear, and the first 2 Harry Potter movies.
Which one of those doesn't belong there? Like the first 2 Harry Potter movies, what are they, a decade old now? Just out of nowhere?
But those are only $3, except you have to pay in Facebook credits instead of $4 for Inception, Life as We Know It, and Yogi Bear.
You know, whenever I hear stuff like Facebook credits, it makes me think of the internet as a map of the world where you have different countries that mint their own currency. And you've got and you have different planets, too. You've got Xbox, console planet where you have...
We don't take Facebook credits here.
Exactly. And it's so crazy to me because there's this crazy... I mean, you know me, I'm a nut job. It's pure anarchy where people mint their own currency. I think that's awesome.
Time for Tube Tops. The Songs of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones, starts on HBO April 17th.
I don't even know I'm not prepared. I've spent so long waiting. What's funny, it's like I spent so long waiting for the next book, and then that excitement translated into so long waiting for the for the TV show to come out on HBO, that it's like I don't even know that I'm prepared to watch it. Like some weird part of me is convinced that I'm not even going to watch it live when it comes out.
You can watch a 15-minute preview of the first episode on the HBO website.
That was all right.
It's there at HBO.com. And one of the interesting things, I'm not sure if it's in the preview or not, is the opening credits will show a map of the world, and whatever parts of that world are going to be discussed in that episode will be highlighted, so that you kind of know at the beginning, like, okay, we're going to get Daenerys in the Dothraki Highlands. We're going to get Winterfell in this episode. We're going to be at the Wall.
What's the name? Is it Westeros? Is that the name?
Westeros
of it?
is the across the narrow sea.
That's right.
And so what's interesting about this is there has never been a map of the lands of the free cities across the narrow sea from Westeros. There's only a map of Westeros in the books.
Oh, really?
So this is our first look at a map that includes the Dothraki Sea and Pentos and all of those free cities.
George R.R. Martin's always been funny, too, about how people interpret his stuff. For example, he's been obstinate refusing to give pronunciations for any of the characters' names. He says, hey, man, those are the letters on the page. You read them however you want.
Yeah.
And so it's really difficult when you listen to the audiobooks. I listened to the first 3 audiobooks where the Petyr, somebody represented as Petyr Baelish. Meanwhile, somebody else later on takes over reading the book. He's like, Peter. And I'm like, no, Petyr. I corrected him each time.
The problem is George Martin knows how he would pronounce them. Why does he do that?
I don't know. Probably the same reason he just tweets about NFL instead of the freaking writing the books.
Also, AMC's Mad Men will not return until 2012, but it will return, which was in doubt for a while. Matthew Weiner, whose contract negotiations with the network had stalled, has finally reached a new deal with AMC for 2 more seasons, and he will remain as the showrunner through seasons 5 and 6. He has an option with producer Lionsgate Television to remain for a 7th season as well if he wants to. AMC had delayed the start of the season. I heard that one of the things is they wanted him to agree to kill 2 characters.
No
They didn't care
way.
who 2 characters or why. They just thought it would be good for ratings.
Dude, this sounds like what's funny is there are games like the movies where you make movies and it's SimCity style, right? It's like there are people who play that game for reals. They're like, we need 5 explosions and 2 surprising deaths. Otherwise, the people won't like it.
Yeah.
Plus, add more women.
Well, what he said, there's been a lot of speculation and misinformation in the press about what is going on, Weiner said. I want the fans to know directly from me that I had nothing to do with this delay, and it is not about money. I am fighting for the cast and for the show. What that says to me, Brian, is all those things you heard about the stupid things about the plot, yeah, those were true.
Really?
I've been fighting for that.
Wow.
Yeah. So he gets a 3-year, $30 million contract, and we get the integrity of people dying because the plot required it, not because they wanted Sweeps Week to
But
go
this is another, remember last week we were talking about, what shows were picked up for 2 seasons at a time and what that actually spoke about the success of the show and how committed they were behind it. I mean, this is for 2 seasons, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, that's big news as well. But I don't think it's any surprise that Mad Men was one of AMC's favorite children.
Also, not in our lineup, but I heard as well from Eileen Rivera that Kirkman is now on staff at The Walking Dead.
Oh, that's so
and is
great.
writing at least 1 episode next season.
All right, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Which, especially coming on the heels of last year, they of course it was a big news after the season ended. They fired all the staff writers on The Walking Dead.
If you don't know, Robert Kirkman is the author of the comic book The Walking Dead, upon which the series is based.
Which, again, the more the series diverges from the comic book, the happier I'll be. Because I've experienced the comic book, and you should too. Everyone should experience the comic book. But I think the series has its own merits and has something else to say.
And finally, Doctor Who had a preview at WonderCon here in San Francisco. Writer Neil Gaiman was at the panel. He wrote an episode for the upcoming season of Doctor Who.
He's ever made anything awesome that I've totally read.
It looks like there's going to be a different dynamic between sidekick Amy Pond and the Doctor. She's going to be keeping a huge secret from him.
All right.
And they also showed 2 clips. The first 2-parter in which Mark Shepard shows up as a character. Delaware is drinking in a bar when he gets recruited for a government mission. Delaware has left the FBI, but President Nixon wants him for a secret mission.
Okay.
And he gets told, "You were my second choice. You were my second choice for president," says Delaware. And meanwhile, River Song is telling the Doctor and friends about Delaware and his mission. So there's the time travel and the Richard Nixon and all of that. A lot of stuff's going to be happening in America, it sounds like, in this season of Doctor Who.
You know what? Maybe that's a little tip of the hat to the fact that it's become so successful on BBC America. And I think it's weird because America has a weird relationship with Doctor Who. When I was growing up, I was the only kid who had heard of Doctor Who, much less watched it with my dad on PBS every Thursday night.
Now, do you consider, having never seen an episode of Doctor Who, anything I just said a spoiler?
Wait, I have seen Doctor Who.
Well, okay, but not.
But if I had,
yeah.
No, it's all nonsense, something time travel, which I don't think is a spoiler. Why, you want to take the spoiler alert up?
No, there's people in the chat room saying that was a spoiler, saying that Delaware meets President Nixon.
You know what? What's funny is I've only watched the first 2 or 3 seasons of the new Doctor Who, so I don't even know what those words mean.
If that was a spoiler,
Somebody
that should be
met the
spoiler alert transparent.
Spoiler alert, nothing.
Spoiler alert see-through.
No, I don't think those are spoilers.
All right, let us then...
Wait, before we go on, we should have talked about it during Film
Well,
Foam.
that's what I was going to move on to, actually.
Oh, wait, to Film Foam?
Not back to Film Found, but I was going to say let's move on to talking about the source code because we forgot about it.
Okay, good. Was that a correction you just did? You just did a correction?
No.
That really was what you meant?
I was about to say let's move on.
Okay, to the past.
To the past.
Let's move on to where we were 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, I was really going to, because I realized we can get your review of source code. I haven't seen it. What was the deal?
First of all, I think we have to have a new policy here on Frame Rate that anytime we talk about a movie that's currently during the summer slate, we have to disclaim whether or not we own that movie in the Summer Movie League.
You do own the source code.
As somebody who bought source code for $9, I highly encourage everyone to go watch it right now. But having said that, for those of you who don't know, source code, of course, directed by Duncan Jones, who directed, I don't know if he wrote it, but he directed the brilliant Moon. And I went on a bender after watching source code. In fact, I watched it with Colleen, Digital Kitty, we put together this Twit studio. A couple of things. One, there's a moment in the movie when he pulls out the phone.
Wait. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. He pulls out the phone, and the character says, "Let me look that up." And guess what's on the phone? I bet you can guess.
Linux?
Bing.
Bing! He bings and decides.
He pulls on the phone to look something up, and it shows Bing, and I actually hear a colleague
Spoiler!
Who now works at Google. I just hear... just physically struck in the gut.
Microsoft's good with the product placement.
They sure are. In fact, if you go online, you can actually look up for examples of Microsoft Bing product placement, and there's a ton of them on there. So that's on there. But the movie itself, not as good as Moon. I liked Moon better, and I especially because we came back home and Colleen hadn't seen Moon, so I made her watch it. So I sat there and watched it with her. But it's a weird movie in that you start with really interesting questions. You figure out some answers earlier than I would like, but then the last 20 minutes are so rewarding. I full on got I spent a little bit like, I was going a little bit slow, and then I got so swept up with the characters and what actually happens at the end, and I got a little choked up. It was really a neat experience.
I've heard that from a couple people now. They're like, the movie's okay until the end,
Yes.
and then it's awesome.
Yes.
Which it's almost always the opposite, right? It's usually like, yeah, the movie's really good. I didn't really love the ending. This one it's the total opposite. So what I would say is go see something else. That's like starts 15 minutes before source code,
and then
just go sneak in and watch the end of the source code.
That's brilliant. Go watch. Oh man, I'm trying to think of a movie too that had a crappy ending. Go watch The Abyss at home.
King's Speech. You know he's going to make the speech and not stutter.
No, well, first of all, he did stutter, but it's like I like the King's Speech for what it was,
No,
but it was
actually,
not the best picture.
Did I mention I saw it with George Lucas?
Yeah.
Not sure.
Why didn't you talk to him? Should have talked to him about our show.
I should have.
And the other thing I did is I rewatched the Phantom Menace review. Every bit as good as the Revenge of the Sith review.
All right. Well, that is it for this episode of Frame Rate. We're going to skip the emails this week, but that does not mean we don't read them. Thank you. We get an overwhelming number of emails from y'all. It's fantastic. Please keep sending them along to framerateshow@gmail.com. We appreciate your support, and we will
feedback.
see you
Love
next
your feedback.
time.
Tell us what's what.
Yeah, tell us what we did wrong, like we didn't read emails. For instance.
I don't like the fact that you suddenly short your show.
We'll see you next week.